Hi friends, in this video we're going to be going over diffusion and osmosis and basically how molecules can get across a semi-permeable membrane, or in other words a phospholipid bilayer of a cell or blood vessels. First, as always, let's get oriented to what we are looking at. This here is the phospholipid bilayer. That means it has a phosphate up here with two lipid tails. And bilayer means there's two layers, so we have one on the other side as well, completing the membrane. Here we have a channel protein, here we have a carrier protein, and here we have a protein pump. Let's say we're talking about a cell, so we'll say this is the outside of the cell and this is the inside of the cell. This whole thing is the cell's membrane. We're just close up and really zoomed in on a chunk of it. First, let's talk about simple diffusion. Simple diffusion just means it doesn't need any of these proteins here to get across this membrane. So let's say we have a high concentration of solute up here, and then a lower concentration of solute down here. The whole goal of these solutes is to get an equal concentration of these solutes on both sides of the membrane. So when there's a higher concentration here and a lower concentration here, the movement of solutes is going to go from high to low. The reason these molecules don't need any of these proteins is because they're small enough to pass through the tight-knitted phospholipid bilayer. Examples of these kind of molecules would be oxygen or CO2. Notice with diffusion we are talking about solutes and not water. When we talk about water, that will be osmosis. Next we have facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion just means these molecules need a protein to help it get past this phospholipid bilayer. So let's do the same, high concentration here and low concentration in here. These solutes are going to want to move to the lower concentration. The kind of molecules that would be passing through this one would be something like ions, and then the kind of molecules passing through the carrier protein would be something like glucose because they're big. All of these transport ways we talked about, they're considered passive, meaning they don't need energy. They're moving from a high concentration to a low concentration. That is diffusion. Now, we can't talk about passive transport unless we talk about active transport. Active transport is taking solutes from a low concentration and putting them to the high concentration, so the opposite of diffusion. So let's say we have our high concentration up here and then our low concentration down here. Active transport is going to be bringing low to high to make this even a higher concentration. To do this, we need energy, and the energy that these pumps here use is ATP. Remember, this is not considered diffusion because it is not going from high to low, it's going low to high. Now let's get into osmosis. Osmosis is purely dealing with the movement of water molecules, so our good old H2O. There's two different ways you can think of osmosis. The first way, it has the same rule as diffusion, except we're talking about the water molecules and not the solutes within the solution. So let's say we have our high concentration up here of our water molecules and our low concentration of water molecules down here. It's going to move to the low concentration. Or we can think of it as water wants to follow wherever the most solutes are. So let's say we have a high concentration of solutes right here. Let's say it's salt. And you have a low concentration of solutes here. Since there's not a lot of solutes here, there's going to be more water around here. And since there's more solute down here, there's going to be less water before osmosis happens. So now the water is going to want to move from the low concentration of solute to the high concentration of solute, so it can kind of dilute the high concentration of solute. But as you can see right next to it, our first way of understanding osmosis, it's still happening over here. You see the high concentration of water molecules to the low concentration of water molecules. Water is one of those molecules that can pass through the semi-permeable membrane without a protein, but they can pass through the proteins as well. For example, the aquaporin protein, specifically designed to let water pass through the membrane. Osmosis is also considered passive transport. Remember that diffusion deals with solutes and osmosis deals with the movement of water. That is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please comment down below any questions you have, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.